Howdy. I'm out here in the backyard today, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are going to be coming up here on my little YouTube channel. Anyway, I think I'm up to 119 subscribers now. Thank you. I haven't been posting as much as I was for a while. There's a couple of reasons for that. First thing is I'm not just posting stuff because I think I need to make a video. I'm not worried about being monetized or any of that. And when I post something, I go to the place I'm posting about. I do all my own photography, I do all my own videography, I do my own drone work. So it's yeah, and then I got other things going on in my life too, and so that's all I can say about that. Anyways, lately I've been thinking about and doing a little research on some of these sites that I visited, and also some that I haven't visited and that I don't know if I'll get a chance to visit. But I was watching a thing about Stonehenge, and I think this basically was triggered by the summer equinox was a few days ago, and so there was a lot of stuff talking about Serpent Mound, talking about Stonehenge, talking about Chaco Canyon and Göbekli Tepe, and these things that seem to have been structured around spotting this summer equinox. Certain things line up, the light shines on a certain thing, you know, so they're all sort of, and so the general consensus seems to be there's some sort of calendars, and perhaps they helped spot a certain time of the year in certain places where it was a good time to grow crops, a good time to plant. Well, I really sort of agree with that, and I sort of don't agree with it from what I've seen. I've also, and I'll tie into here, you know, Three Rivers in New Mexico and some other sites I've been to. And I think that there are far simpler ways to tell when to plant crops than building a giant structure like this. It didn't take Stonehenge to know when to plant your crops. Okay, you can, when the weather's warming up, you know it. You know, put a bowl of water outside your little hut there, and if it doesn't freeze for a month, maybe you can plant something. Plant a couple of things to, you know, 2 weeks later, plant another batch in case one freezes. So I do garden quite a bit myself, and I just think there's better ways to know when it's time to plant than building these ancient megastructures, you know, like Serpent Mound and Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe and Chaco Canyon. I also think that a lot of ancient cultures, they didn't use the same type of calendar we do. You look at the Mayan calendar, you know, reset in 2012, I believe it was, on the winter solstice, and there was all kinds of stuff going around at the time about how, oh, this was the end of the world, it was this, it was that, it was this, and basically what it was the beginning of a new cycle. And that is key in my belief. What I believe is that these structures were mapping out way more than what happens in a calendar year or a time of a certain year. I believe that a lot of these structures were set to map cycles. And some of those cycles might be what we consider a year. Some of these cycles might be 50-year, 100-year, or 1,000-year, or 2,000-year cycles. But there's a strong belief among a lot of people, even today, that human nature and the things that we go through and the way we act and the way one generation affects the next generation, this is all cyclical. I read a book called The Fourth Turning, and according to some of the people who see a lot in this book. We're in the fourth turning right now, and the fourth turning is all about how one generation affects another generation that affects the next generation, and so on and so forth. So I think that cycles may be, you know, there's 80-year cycles, there's 200-year cycles, there's maybe 250-year cycles. There are patterns. And I think the earth, the stars, and us as humans and other types of wildlife, we all are affected by these cycles. There are lunar cycles, for instance, that take something like 18 years to complete. They think the outer ring of Stonehenge, there's some holes that are filled with limestone, and I think there's like 56 holes, and they think that might represent a certain number of lunar cycles, like 3 complete or 4 complete lunar cycles, whatever it is. And I don't remember exactly how long these lunar cycles are supposed to be, maybe 16 years. Anyway, so they were mapping cycles, not years, days. Their view of time may have been completely different than what our view of time is. So all these things I've been looking at, trying to figure out, you know, well, what was this for? What did they mean by this? Why did they take time to carve this in rock? Why did they take time 5,000 years ago to be painting the cave walls with these certain patterns? And more and more and more, what stands out to me, it's not adhering to a certain calendar like we do. It's adhering to a cycle. It's a firm belief that that there's a complete cycle of life for existence. For example, I mean, that, you know, life begins, you come from a certain place, a creation point is of a common belief among some of the ancient peoples, that a lot of people have a point of origin in their beliefs. So you come from there, you complete your life, and when your life is complete, you go back to that point, and that sort of completes that cycle. It's I need to dig into it some more, and I'm going to have to revisit some places, and I'm going to go to some places that I haven't been to yet. I've got a big trip coming up in September. I'm going to go over into New Mexico. I'm going to go up into Colorado, come down into southern Utah, and visit what I can there. And I finally, after all these years of visiting these ancient sites, being just fascinated with the ancient culture of the prehistory of North America, I feel like maybe I've got something I can look into, and it you know, a solid sort of thing to look for. Whether it's there or not, we'll find out. I'll keep an open mind. I could be totally wrong about it. But I really think that there's something to do with these cycles that they were mapping, and exactly why they were mapping them or what purpose that served, I don't know. That's something else I'll have to look into. You know, the shorter cycles would be the cycles of growth. Farming might be into it. The farming thing, the rich people seem to have always forced the poorer ones into doing the hard labor. That's just a story as old as human history. You go back to the peasants in the medieval age, and they were all, you know, gathered around the churches, growing the food, raising the livestock, producing, you know, everything that the people who lived inside the walls ate, and the people inside the walls in return prayed for them. You know, it's like, well, we can't do any work, we're too busy praying for you. And so you've always had that sort of separation. I believe there's a lot of evidence of that type of things at some of these sites too. Chaco Canyon, they believe there was a big hierarchy and like a royal family that lived there, and they were enslaving people basically to do some of the work there. So there's always evidence of that. But what do some of these longer cycles, what was expected to happen during those cycles? I'm talking about not just the year cycle and the planting and harvesting and that. Okay, that wouldn't have taken too long to nail down. But were they trying to look into sort of a crystal ball and say, well, we know from our ancestors that this happened, 500 years ago, and it's due to happen in another 200 years, and our people have to be ready. So they're trying to sort of get their descendants ready for when the next thing happens. I don't know. And what was that next thing? A lot of people claim that there were natural disasters that they believed were cyclical, so they were trying to warn people, hey, this happened at this time, and we believe it's going to happen again in this many years or whatever. So a lot of interesting things coming up. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to revisit some of the sites that I've already been to, and I'm going to go through some of my old film clips and photographs and stuff like that that I've made on my travels. And so I'm gonna, these videos are gonna be popping up. They're not gonna be all that I post about. I've got some other ideas that, I think there's a lot of people retiring right now. The boomers are pretty much, if you're not retired yet, you got one foot out the door and the other on a banana peel, put it that way. And a lot of them are coming to Texas. I went to a place, my wife, there's her and a lady down the street like to go to these estate sale things where people are selling, and they called me up and wanted me to go down there with my truck to pick something, big table up that the neighbor had bought. So I shot down there, and turned out it was this lady from California, and I went to high school in California, and she had worked at the library in the city where I went to high school at the time I was going to school there. So it was kind of cool, and we got to talking about that, and then she sort of leaned over and said, there's a lot of people from California here. And I live in Waco, Texas. And she's absolutely right. I see California tags every time I go into town from people retiring. And so there's other things I like to do with my retirement as well. I love playing guitars, and I write songs. I used to play in bands. I don't do that too much anymore. Mostly what I do now is on my own, but I might get into that a little bit. I love photography. I've always loved photography. My dad was a photographer, and on my birth certificate, where it lists father's occupation, it says photographer. Anyway, so that's sort of a tie to that, and I like doing landscape photography more than anything else, and so I might get into that. Maybe I can give some tips about how I like to get good landscape shots. And I like doing these videos too. So several things coming up. I'm hoping that I can really maybe spot some things that point to these cycles that I'm talking about, and maybe some things that point out exactly what these cycles are about. Are they about new beginnings? Are they about old endings? Are they about natural disasters? Are they about ancient times that, where good things happened or bad things happened? Try to find out. And then the other thing I'm really interested in, and this won't come as a surprise to anybody that knows me, in real life is I'm really interested in the UFO thing, and I see sort of, again, visiting these sites and having an interest in UFOs. I don't know that I've ever seen a UFO. I may have, but I have it on good authority from someone who would know, that I know personally, and I'm not going to name this person. I don't want to get anybody in any kind of trouble, but that they do exist. So I'll leave it at that. And maybe look into some connection between some of these ancient sites and maybe visitors from other planets, and maybe the cycles tie into that. Maybe there's a cycle where these people, their activity increases or they come back. We know that several of the ancient cultures in North America swore that they were being visited by people from the sky and so on. And so if there's a connection, I'm not going to force my opinion into there and try to twist things to make, square pegs fit in round holes. I hate when people do that. I'm not going to do it myself. But if I see something I think there's a possibility it might be connected, I'm going to look into it. And I'll share my findings on this channel. So that's what we got coming up. And everybody out there, if you're stressed, we all might be a little stressed right now. Do your part to leave a better world behind than you came into. And when you've done what you can do to accomplish that, don't forget to give some time to yourself. Really. Take your mind off it one way or another. And anyways, I just got visited by my dog here. He wants to be petted. So, hi Billy. Hi Billy. Here. There's Billy. Hey Billy. Anyways, I'll see you next time.